Uh, I would like to move a little fast forward and invite our online participants to additional computer scientists. So we're starting with computer scientists back to back because they are really bringing outsider intelligence to this. So Professor Kumar and his younger faculty, Dr. Arjunan, are participating in our meeting from Australia, Melbourne, Australia. If Dr. Kumar and
Good
Arjunan are available,
afternoon.
please go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
I don't know what time it is. Out here it is just after 1 o'clock.
Sorry, we lost you.
I said out here the time is just after 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
Okay. Well, we're approaching 9 p.m. here in New Orleans. Please go ahead. The next few 10, 15 minutes are yours. And when
Thank you.
ask questions, please go ahead.
Okay, now the background is we have studied the Australian Blue Mountain Study database, which we were conducting analysis for the retina. And in that, we tried to understand the risk factors for using the Framingham equation in the beginning and other methods, and we found that they did not work very well. So then we attempted to come up with our own method, which is what we are reporting here. And before I even start, the purpose we are hoping is that we can get our hands onto more databases, including the Framingham database, if we can, to see whether we can do something better than what it was before. So, and we know that CVD is one of the single largest causes of mortality worldwide. We also know that it's a big cost to the health systems everywhere in the world. And in order to prevent and make reduce the chances of CVD, at least in Australia and most parts of the world, people, when they turn the magic number, typical 45, and they get a risk score, which is based upon the Framingham modified Framingham model, and which uses certain parameters about our health. And there are other factors as well. However, it is so far the literature seems to suggest that Framingham risk score is the superior single risk factor. And there are arguments whether Framingham has got the right parameters, etc. We are, in this particular context, not discussing and arguing on that fact. What we are concerned is that whether we were able to predict people's health issues before it happened using the longitudinal study which was conducted in VMES Blue Mountains Eye study. So what we then attempted is, well, there were arguments in literature that the difference is perhaps related to the difference in the demographics, or it is because the ethnic population in Framingham at the time of the analysis was different than perhaps in Australia. So we wanted to test whether that is the major driving force, the factor, or whether it is actually that the model in itself has got too many approximations, Framingham model being a linear model. Maybe we needed a nonlinear model. So with that aim, we performed the analysis for the population-based study, and we found that using Framingham model, our outcomes were very, very poor. And because this database has got 15-year-old longitudinal data with people being monitored every 5 years. So we know what the health parameters were at the end of the study, and we were trying to look back and see whether we could predict them. But we were unable to do that. So while we had collected more data than what was used in this particular study, but that was simply because we wanted to compare our technique with the Framingham model in itself, and thus we restricted ourselves only to those parameters. Now, Blue Mountains I study is a population-based study, which Blue Mountains is a suburb of Sydney, and in this particular study, the people were 49 years and older, and the entire suburb, 99% plus, was taken, and this is largely a European descent study, European including the Anglo-Saxon in this case. The total number of people in the study were 3,654, and we in this particular study we followed people every 5 years for 15 years or till mortality. So in this particular, after we've done the analysis of the study, we broke it down into the number of people who we could follow up for the 10-year follow-up study, and people who had CVD after that period, and people who did not have CVD. So as you can see, the numbers are in there. Smokers, cholesterol level, etc., were all captured in this particular slide in the database. Once that was done, and we did the Framingham risk equation, which is in the slide in front of us, it was that the results, I think the next slide covers the results, which we got, and then 95% confidence ratio. So what we then determined is that could we use a non-linear method, and support vector machine is one such good example, could do that, and we again attempted to do the same thing. We used a simple SVM using linear kernel and with C values, which were default basically from the system, and we again attempted to do this with a different kernel, but as you'll see that that these particular differences were small. Once we had done that, we then obtained from the SVM model the weights corresponding to how much is the relationship of each of these with the or the strength of the connection between the parameter and the net target output. Now, once we did that, we've gotten them listed there, and age obviously was the biggest single parameter, which is pretty similar to what the Framingham equation also gives us. Once we'd done that, we did a comparative, and we also then did the sensitivity and specificity analysis. We got the AUC now, using the SVM, we got the AUC of 0.71, and using logistic regression analysis, it was 0.63, and the Framingham risk model gave 0.57. Now, the logistic regression analysis, not being super high, suggests that just by changing the ethnicity of the people or the demographics of the people was not such a strong parameter. It did contribute from 0.57 to 0.63. However, it was not enough. But when you change the model from the linear model to a non-linear model like an SVM, it then changed significantly. So 0.71 while compared with 0.57. Now, at this particular stage, we used only the parameters which were of the Framingham study. Well, now, of course, we do understand many other parameters which we should consider. For example, family history, or for example, the girth size of the person, or not only just smoking history, but alcohol and the history as well, or the exercise. However, we haven't captured that in this particular study because this study was comparing the family parameters only. Well, that was a quick thing of
Thank
and
Dr. Kumar, is that you?
that's me.
So thank you. This, again, I think you reiterated what Dr. Kakadiaris just said, that you're taking the same ingredient, you're just running through a different recipe, and that's the nonlinear SVM approach. And so you, is that right?
And now, when I use
Sorry, we're losing you.
when we use SVM, please note this is only an example. It could be with any other similar machine learning method, and the results should be reasonably similar.
Okay. So I guess the conclusion here is that this is another example of how machine learning can do better than our traditional, pretty much everything that we use in a statistical method is a linear method. Uh, uh, and so other variables that he's, paid attention to, possibly with family history and um, waist circumference and things like that, obviously are still preliminary compared to what we're trying to uh, obtain with, you know, genomics, proteomics, metabolomic, and all that. Any questions for Dr. Kumar?